Nick Drake came up with some of the coolest little guitar accompaniments, frankly, in my opinion, of all time. There's this one. This is, of course, Things Behind the Sun from his album Pink Moon, which you just gotta have. Well, then I go play something not from Pink Moon. Just another example of a really cool thing. There are, like, Road is one of them, Riverman, great stuff in Nick's. In Things Behind the Sun, very typical of what is, in a lot of his songs, a kind of repetitive, but with a lot of variations, pattern going on in the right hand. Not too many chords, just a couple of fairly simple chord shapes. So there's nothing too challenging with the left hand here. The big challenge in this song is going to be to get the right hand picking accurate. Now, he does a lot of things differently. Well, I'd like to say from time to time, but unfortunately there are not multiple recordings of him playing any of these things. But you can hear there's a lot of variety in even the same chord or the same measure done in different spots. So I've gone to a pretty great lengths to put together 4 pages of tablature that is probably 99% accurate from what he did. Anyway, was really enjoying working on this lesson. And so what we're going to talk about as we go through here is the simple way of playing it, which is what he does in the verse. In the verse, we've just got a little easy chord progression going on. A minor to E to an F power chord, and then back to E7 sus4 and E7. That's it, a little 4-measure thing. So we'll take a look at that first, and then we'll talk about all the little variations that happen in there. All that stuff will be broken down, up, down, all around, analyzed, and taught, hopefully, in this lesson on Nick Drake's Things Behind the Sun. We have, as I mentioned in the last segment, there are really just a couple of different chord shapes, and none of them are particularly difficult. The song really revolves around an A minor chord. So we play in the A minor in standard fingering, first 3 fingers. It opens up, though, with a variant on the A, and that would be an A suspended 2, a chord that leaves the 2nd string open. Notice I have a capo at the 4th fret. We're going to do this whole lesson with the capo at the 4th so that we're in tune with Nick and his recording. It just doesn't have the same character. You capo at 4 and it changes the sound of the guitar significantly enough. So we got to stay with it. Capo at 4. So it opens up with the A sus2, and then our little pattern starts with, we really only have a couple chords. The chords are A minor, goes to E, and then we have a couple variants of the E that work our way throughout the song. So the standard E would be this, 3 fingers. E7 would of course include the open D, just 2 fingers, and usually the E7 is preceded by an E7 sus4 with an A replacing the G sharp. So that's what we hear in the beginning. We went from A minor to E. Later on we have the E7 sus4 and the E and the E7, but we have one other chord that happens in the intro and the verse, and that's really, it's an F, but just really an F power chord. But we do hear the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings, the D, G, and B, all played open as well on this chord. Very unusual sounding chord. A minors, E's, F. We're not going to go into. Maybe I will later. I don't know what we would want to call it with all those open notes in there. We, of course, don't have a 3rd, so it's suspended. There's a G in there giving us a sus2, there's a B giving us an add sharp 11, and there's a D giving us a 6th. So, or a 13. Anyway, enough of that. So, very simple chord to play there, and then that's followed by the E7 sus and the E7. We have a basic pattern. I'd be looking right now at the measure that is the A minor measure in the first measure of the verse. So the 2nd line down, 2nd measure in, 3rd line down, sorry. But what we have is your thumb taking care of bass notes, and your 3 fingers frequently working together to play 3 notes of the chord, usually either the top 3 strings or the 2nd 3 strings. And then but what we have is most of the time the first 2 bass notes are played as the same note. So we've got a lot of your thumb playing eighth notes in the song. Now the quarter notes are going very slowly. 3, 4. So that, but you could play with the beats. Your thumb will be playing never anything faster than that. And then sometimes we have a finger in between. Now sometimes we even have that finger on the same string. So right there I'm playing my thumb and then my index and then my thumb. So a good thing to practice to get this down, you could do it on a different string. If I'm hitting the E here, I'm holding down an A minor chord again, by the way, which I think I mentioned. Maybe not. Sometimes you need to be able to hit your index finger between two thumbs that are eighth notes. 1 E and a. Well, I'm not going to count that. Anyway, but so looking at the first measure, or that measure of A minor at the beginning of the verse, we see 2 A's, then a 4-finger pinch, meaning 3 fingers and a thumb, and then another bass note there. So we actually had 4 bass notes in the first half of the measure and 4 in the second half of the measure, and there it was. 2 A's, 2 E's, 2 A's, 2 E's. When we throw the chord in and the and, so the fingers that fall between, I'm going to refer to those as notes happening on ands because I really want to count the eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and. The introduction kind of sets the stage for the solo that comes up a little bit later and for the verse, and it's a more elaborate version of what's happening in the verse. Now what he does is he opens up with our A sus2, and it really opens up without the double bass note. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but what we hear here is this. Those 3 half measures are identical. The pinch also doesn't really include the high E. It's noticeably missing. It's not this. There would be nothing wrong with playing it like that, but just as a little variation, it seems like you're really hearing. What happens is this B really cuts through everything. So the second half of the second measure introduces 4 bass notes in a row, each one followed by a finger. Now, the last finger could be anything. It's really hard to tell what's in there. As much as I slowed this down, it doesn't really matter. I kind of like the idea in this little 4-beat run of going with my right here we got the index and middle fingers on the second and third strings. And now when the bass comes, so right there I went from thumb, middle, thumb, index, but now when the thumb comes back to here, I'm going to hit the string I just hit before, the third string, with my middle finger, because when it comes down to the 6th string in the bass, I'm going to want to use my index finger. So what I've done is alternated index, middles, and index, going thumb, middle, thumb, index, thumb, middle on the same string the index just hit, and then thumb on the bass note. So, I mean thumb and then followed by the index on the 4th string. So really slowly, those 4 measures with what I have in the tab. That sets us up to do, and I have to correct that in mind before I send out the tab. Still got a mistake in there. But that sets us up for our first A minor kind of rhythmic measure. Well, that was a couple of little clips from a lesson I put together on Nick Drake's tune, Things Behind the Sun. It has some very complex picking in it and some just really interesting stuff. The left hand is pretty easy. And we go through all that stuff. I've got tablature that I put together for all of it. We don't talk about singing in the song because that's kind of beyond the scope of what I wanted to get into in this lesson, because it's just really cool guitar playing. But if you'd like to check this lesson out, it's available now at TotallyGuitars. You can pick it up individually. There is a Nick Drake pack of 5 songs on the way, and or you could also join the Target program where you'd have access to this and hundreds of other songs. There's also a lot of free songs to kind of get you going. None of them are nearly as complicated as this, but if you're ready to work on stuff like this, you really should think about checking out our Target program. If you're kind of just getting going on the guitar or want to check out some of the free stuff, be sure to check that out first and see what you think of the rest of the site. Anyway, when you can, come visit us at Totally Guitars.